Hi, I'm Steven Stepanovich. I'm a marriage family therapist in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am making this video to help you get through the AMFTRB national exam, the MFT exam, also known as, to some people as the beast. It is a beast of exam. Hopefully the tips and tricks that I offer in this presentation will help you actually pass the exam. So I'm not going to go through all the material. I'm going to make recommendations in this video about where you can find some of the best material in order to get through this test. I just really wanted to offer my perspective, the things that really helped me get over the hump and getting through this test, and hopefully the mistakes that I made you won't make, because I'm going to pass them on to you so that you can get through this. So with that being said, let's get to it. So the number one thing that you're going to need in order to take and pass this exam is you need a lot of determination. Persistence pays off, and you're going to apply this I guess mantra in order to tackle and get through this exam and pass this exam. So for the time being, this 3-month period, you really want to sit down with your friends, your family, or your support system and let them know, hey, I'm trying for this goal. I need your patience and understanding, and know that I might not be able to commit to a birthday party or an event that might be coming up, because I really need to study for this. So you really need to get that that foundation set and let everybody know that who is in your life, that this is what I'm about to do and this is the support that I need, which leads to no distractions. You really want to try and limit your distractions as much as possible. You can't control life, but at the same time you can really control your calendar, like what you add in and accept and decline, whatever you choose to end up doing, it's your life. But I would strongly recommend no distractions, which leads to the big one, no big events. And this, I can tell you from firsthand experience and knowledge, that this is a mistake that I made. I pass on to you, so hopefully that you do not make it, is, don't plan, any big events around taking this exam. I got married the day after I took the exam the first time. In hindsight, obviously not the best choice that I ever made, but it's neither here nor there at this point right now. But I can definitely pass on to you that planning a big event around the same time you're taking this exam is a really big no-no, and you should definitely not do it. My other 2 times were the birth of my daughter and my son, very close to the exam time. You'd think you're just knocking off one thing off your list, so you don't have to deal with this anymore. But at the same time, you're having, if you're having big life note events that are going to change your life, not the best time to be taking this test. And the fourth point is this is a marathon. It's 3 months of really just committing time to learn and study the material, get the reps in through the practice exams, and prepare yourself so that you are in complete training mode. And you just really want to take your time. So the first month is going to be study review, getting really familiar with the models. We're going to go over that training day. And then the second thing is getting those reps in, spanning out your practice exams so that when the time comes, game day, essentially test day, you are ready to go. So let's move on to the next slide, and we'll talk more about it then. In this exam, you're going to have to know your opponent. And so, one thing that you're going to have to know is the areas that they're examining you on. Assessing, evaluating, systemic are the primary really the primary areas that they're focusing on. That's where the areas are obviously the most points are available for you to get in taking this exam. You could honestly probably pass all 3 of those with flying colors, fail the rest, and you'd probably still pass the exam. Not the goal that we're going for, but just saying you probably could do that. 180 questions, 4 hours. Pretty simple math. It's about a minute and a half per question. It's not a lot of time. I mean, some questions are very easy, and you're going to read it, and you're going to know the answer immediately, and so you won't have to worry about that. Then you're going to come across, a beignet, which feels like it takes, probably not 10 minutes to read, but it will feel like it takes 10 minutes to read. And then you have to decipher, all the answers with that. So you can really get hung up on the verbiage, in the exam, how they ask the question, and sometimes you're really stuck picking the best of the best worst answer. That's the one thing I would say about this exam and knowing your opponent is they're going to ask questions in ways you've never thought a person could ask a question before, and it's going to really throw you off. So that's what I would say about knowing your opponent, and we'll see you on the next slide. So here we are, we're on that very first day of training. What I'm hoping at this point right now is you either have an idea of when you're going to take the exam, or maybe you even have a test date already scheduled. And hopefully it's 3 months prior to the exam. The very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use an old school technique, model worksheets. I'm going to include a link in the video that you can just download a blank one of these blank sheets, and what you're going to do is you're going to use them, to fill, you're going to fill them out. You're going to look at the models, you're going to look at the theory of change, and you're going to transfer whatever you're reading in a book or a handout to these pieces of paper. It is an old school technique, but I can honestly say that for probably each model, I did at least probably half a dozen of these sheets per model. It was actually a recommendation that I took in one of these preparatory classes, and it really worked. I know that a lot of people really don't want to take the time to do that, but if you really want to learn the models, I would strongly suggest doing it, because the one thing that the exam is going to ask you to do is you need to be able to jump from model to model, and using these worksheets to read and study and write out all the theories of change and who developed these models is really going to help you, feel really comfortable in the exam and feel confident in answering these questions. So what I did here is I actually ranked what I felt were the most models asked in the test. They are, of course they will ask you about every single model, but there's going to be some models that are really heavy in the exam, and these were the ones that I thought they specifically asked about most of the time. And so I did rank them in the order I felt as far as the most questions asked per model. And so what I did here on this slide is in solution focused, I just pointed out, the main core concepts that I felt that the exam's going to question you on. You definitely want to know in solution focused the present, here and now, identify exceptions, and the 100% they're going to ask you this test question on is they're going to ask somewhere in the exam, they want to know about a solution focused first session formula task. Definitely study up on that. You're going to need to know the answer. They will ask you about it. In strategic, you definitely need to know your cybernetics, feedback loops, positive and negative, what a paradoxical injunction is, family rules. They will 100% ask you about cybernetics, first order change, second order change. So you really want to take the time to study strategic. They will ask you a lot of strategic questions. If you come across a question that says, a therapist, they're asking you from a strategic perspective. There is another slide on that that's coming up that we'll talk about that, and how to decipher what the question's really asking you. But strategic is one that you will study backwards and forward. That was one I absolutely wrote 6 different model worksheets up on, so that I really knew what I was talking about and felt comfortable. Structural, you're going to need to know. There was a lot of structural questions. The main things here is boundaries, hierarchy, subsystems, parentified child, individuation. Need to know all these core concepts of the model, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable answering those questions when it comes to the structural. Brief strategic is a little different than strategic. Same developer that was part of both. There's just a few differences. The scale of the reframe, paradoxical injunction, and ordeals are different in brief strategic as from the basic strategic model. Definitely want to read about Jay Haley and brief strategic therapy. They ask you a ton of questions on this model, and and you're going to need to know the core concepts for those. Bowen, scale of differentiation, differentiation of self, and the genogram. They will ask you, they might ask you a question like, who developed the genogram? They might not say Burt and Murray Bowen, but they might ask you like, who developed the genogram? And it might be a Bowenian therapist as an answer, and there you go. You got an answer there for free. Emotionally focused experiential is another area that they will ask you about, not as much as the other models, but they definitely will ask you. You need to know the battle for structure, battle for initiative, the EFT tango they will ask you about. And so those are the core concepts that you really need to know about, that I would strongly suggest you look over and over again and really know what those are to feel comfortable in the exam. So this was just a quick slide, and I just wanted to briefly talk about, the way that the exam asks questions is, really not straightforward. They really try and use different words and terms to really throw you off, because you might not have seen this term in a book. Probably most likely you have, but at the same time, when you're taking an exam and they ask you what a brief therapist would do or a therapist would do, it kind of really throws you for a loop, because they didn't ask you about a specific model. They just asked you what a therapist would do. And so one thing I wanted to help and give a quick tip is how to decipher a question in the exam. And so I wrote these 3 points out. Psychodynamic therapist, if they say what is a psychodynamic therapist, it's just an object relations therapist, so that you know that you could apply that model to that question. When they ask you what a brief therapist would do, they're really looking at the strategic model, and in the A therapist, it's either going to be strategic or brief strategic. That's what you really need to know for the exam. They really do try and mix up the words to really throw you off. We're going to go over another slide about question breakdown and how you can really decipher what they're asking in a question. But I just wanted to give these points to you so that you can know when you're taking the exam, when they specifically ask you these terms, this is what they mean by that term. So besides the top models that I had listed in the previous slide, the one thing that you definitely need to know in this exam is you need to know the Genogram symbols. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is include an attachment in this presentation, and it's basically a Genogram key. It's going to show you what boundaries are, divorce symbols, gender identification, sexual orientation, passing of a loved one. It's, you can kind of see it on this Genogram. Passing a loved one is just an X through. There's a couple things you want to know. You want to know gender identification is definitely a new one that they're adding on the exam, and they will ask you those questions. The one thing that you need to know is probably the adoption sign and the stillbirth sign. If you knew those 3 and you could get the other basics, you'll be able to decipher a Genogram fairly well and be able to answer the question. One trick that you need to know on this exam is that they might ask you a question that has a Genogram in it. You'll see as you read the question and you look at the Genogram that the Genogram really is just there to throw you off. That the question really has nothing to do with the Genogram. This won't happen all the time, but I felt that there was 2 or 3 questions that were Genogram questions, and it was great to see the picture, so it kind of gave me a little bit more clarity. But the Genogram, they didn't ask anything about the Genogram, and they were just more asking model questions related to what you see in the picture. So definitely be aware of that, and that's what you're going to need to know for the exam. So the one thing I want to do in this presentation is to save you time and save you money. And so while I might not be able to get a discount on either of these programs, maybe we'll hope and see if people actually watch this video. But, the one thing I could definitely point you in a direction so you're not spending, money on 3, 4, or 5 different programs just to try and pass this exam. But I would pick these 2, Family Solutions Online and AATBS. I will leave links in the description below so that you can check out these, programs, at your leisure. But I can't stress the importance of these 2 programs and how much they help me get through this exam. And it's not just the material that they offer, but the number one thing that these 2 programs I thought were so different from the other ones that I had tried out, or even the free ones you can get online, is that the practice exams were the closest to the real thing. And that's what you really need to get through this exam, is you need reps, and you need reps from really good strong exams, because if you get the reps in and you can answer these questions and you're getting like 70-75%, like you're ready to go. So if you're scoring 75% on like Family Solutions Online or AATBS practice exams, you're good to go for the real thing. And the number one thing I really enjoyed about these practice exams and these programs is every time you took an exam, it would tell you at the end, what areas that you missed and what areas you were strong in. So it really give you that barometer of like, hey, I'm strong in systemic, I'm strong in crisis. I don't really need to study those anymore. I can go study, more on diagnosing or, ethics or whatever the case may be. But it really sped out those numbers, and you could really determine, what areas that I need to focus on for that next study period. So I am not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, but one thing that really helped me pass the exam, I feel, my personal opinion, was a really good eating plan. I put these 4 up here. It's really your choice on what you want to put in your body as you are preparing to take this test. But I would prepare, like you would prepare for anything, especially like working out or doing any type of athletics. I would train for this exam the exact same way. I would definitely encourage you to eat whatever diet you choose, but choose a healthy one. I mean, that's the most important thing. Whatever is healthy, and there's a reason that I chose the ketogenic diet. I had done some research on brain function while you're on keto, and I really felt it helped me. I felt it helped me stay focused, and I definitely felt it helped me with the longevity of the exam. I didn't feel as tired as I had in the past when I did keto. Still a very overwhelming feeling, but I didn't feel as tired as I would in the past. So just a recommendation on this slide, pick something that's really healthy for you. I would recommend the ketogenic diet, but again, I don't know, your medical history or anything like that. So, just something to consider while you're studying for this exam. And hey, man, if you're doing that 3-month thing and you got, some time to play with your diet for a week or 2. See what happens if you do all vegetarian or all keto for a week. I mean, it's kind of, do it while you're taking your practice exams. You can kind of really see what works for you. And then when you're ready to take the real thing, stick to that eating plan, and it will definitely help you. I definitely think it helped me, and this is why I pass on that information to you. Take a spa day. Yeah, you really do need to take a spa day. You need to take some kind of day where you're just relaxing. There are times where this exam and studying for this exam gets very overwhelming, and it's just a lot of redundancy. So, one thing that you want to really do as you're taking your practice exams and leading up to the finale of the actual test day is you really want to pace it out. So maybe, in that final month, one day you're, taking a practice exam and you're really, maybe emulating like what the exam process is really like. So you're taking a 4-hour practice exam. Then after that, the next day or 2, you really want to do nothing. So, schedule that massage, schedule that nail appointment, get your hair done, but just take a break from studying and, just try and do something fun. On this side, break something, throw something. One of the things that I did while taking this exam was we went axe throwing. It was just completely random, and it totally takes your head out of the game for a few hours. And it really does help you make you feel refreshed when you get back to that studying process, and your mind's a lot clearer. JFW, just freaking walk. You know what I really want to say in here, but I'm not going to say it because of the YouTube policies. But just walk. If you don't have the time to do anything, maybe you're a single parent, maybe you can't afford a massage or whatever the case may be, you're working on those intern wages, just walk, take a mile walk. All I do is walk around the building, once a day while I'm at work, just to get that fresh air, get that sunshine. But if you can't do anything, at least take a walk. That will definitely help you out. Working out, that's your personal choice and preference. I love to work out. I think working out while preparing for anything is just a really good benefit to your health, and it definitely will help you through this exam. And one thing that I did towards the end of the last 3 tests that I took was I really started a meditation. And meditation really helped with the test anxiety. And it was really able to be calm while taking the exam the last 3 times. It got kind of funny. I was meditating in the waiting room while you're waiting to take the exam, and people were asking me if I'm ready, and I was in total meditation. So really helped out with the test anxiety. I highly recommend, doing some sort of meditation or prayer while you're going through this process. It will tremendously help you out. And hey, man, it's just a good thing to do anyway. So just some advice. So on this slide, what I really want to do is help you break a question down. And this tip will save you a ton of time while you're taking the exam. So definitely want to really pay attention to this slide, and we're going to work through this real quick. So the one thing that I want you to pay attention to, as I kind of get a highlighter here and whatnot, is the main thing is that when you're taking the exam, they're going to say the next 3 questions or the next 5 questions have to do with this one vignette. So it's the same vignette for every single question for the next 3 to 5 questions. So when you see that the very first time, you want to just really focus all your attention the very first time on this vignette. Read that thoroughly. Maybe read it once or twice. But once you read it once or twice and you really know what the vignette says, you only really have to worry about the bottom part. Do a different color. So then the next part, you obviously answer this question, MRI therapist, but the next question is going to be, what does a structural therapist do? And the next question is going to be, what a solution-focused therapist does. So you really don't have to go back and read the vignette and save yourself a ton of time, as opposed to reading the vignette, answering the question, and then going to the next question and doing it all over again. You don't want to do that. It's going to cost you too much time. And you're going to need time on your side when you get to the end of this exam, and you'll find out what I'm talking about when you get there. But just take time to read that vignette the first time, get it down thoroughly, and save yourself, those few minutes that you're really going to need at the end. Just a quick one on this slide. Let's break this question down real fast. Obviously here's the vignette. In this example that I gave here, and this was kind of what I was going for, is this vignette and this question, they have nothing in common. And this is what the test really does. And basically, we can just probably go to the end. As an MRI therapist, the first thing you would do in the initial session, they're just asking for that. What would an MRI therapist do in an initial session? If you've done your sheets, like I recommended that you do, you would be able to X out a lot of these answers. We know that they're not going to join with the family. That's structural. Determine goals. Every therapist is going to do that, so we can cross that one out. Now we're down to the final 2. MRI, well, we know that's strategic. Well, we know that that's feedback loops. And then the other part is find the most motivated person in the system. There's our cybernetics, hint right there. And so the answer in this one is C. But just wanted to really use this example as how to break down the question. We could find the negative feedback loop, but, in the very first session, we really do want to find the most motivated person so that we can figure out what feedback loop is going on. So we made it to this final month of studying. We're taking our practice exams. Hopefully at this point, maybe you've done some of the things I've suggested in this presentation. You're using those model worksheets to write down the information that you can easily find on YouTube or Google. I mean, these theories are really easy to look up. And you really just want to look who developed the theory of change. You've done all that work. Hopefully at this point you're taking practice exams. And the one thing I definitely want to reiterate is this is just my perspective on what my experience was like, in taking this exam. I was a lucky participant of taking this exam 7 times. So we're, really not too excited about all that, but I was very humbled by the experience. And so, lucky I passed it on number 7. Not only did I pass it, I blew it out of the water. It was really exciting to see such a great passing score. But these are the tips and tricks that I used to get there. And so I really wanted to pass that information along to you all. So the one thing that I would set up is, hopefully you're eating well. Hopefully you've done some model worksheets. Hopefully you've looked at some of the material that I presented on this presentation, and maybe you're working with Family Solutions, or you've done some AATBS practice exams, and you're cruising right now. You're getting ready to take this test. So this is what I would offer in the final 2 weeks of getting ready to take this exam. 2 weeks before, you want to really prep yourself every single day. And so, but we're going to pace this whole thing out. So let's say on Monday, the 1 week prior to the exam, you're going to just take, on that Monday, you're going to take 100 question practice exam. And you're just looking, at this point, you're looking for reps. You really, obviously you're looking for a high score. Hopefully you're scoring a really high on 100. You want a pretty high score. So hopefully you're getting definitely 70 to 80% on 100 questions. That's really not uncommon. So hopefully you're getting that. Then you want to take a day off, maybe 2. And the next day you want to hit a 200 question practice exam, just like the real thing. We're really prepping. At this point, we're seeing where we are. Now, here's a little trick that really helped me out. And some of you are going to like this, and some of you are going to absolutely hate this. What I did is every time that I missed a question, this is probably a little bit too hard on myself. Every time I missed a question on one of these practice exams in the final 2 weeks, I made myself rewrite the question, rewrite all the answers out, and then obviously answer the question that was the correct answer. So I was really hard on myself and prepping in that final week. And I did this every single time, even the time that I passed. This just was something that I picked up online, and it really helps you retain the information. It's really not going to help you on the exam, because obviously the test questions are going to be different, but it really helps with the wording, and that's really important when you're taking this test. I promise you, when I say this, and you look at other MFT videos who've presented on this, they ask questions like you just would not believe a person could ask a question. I just can't even explain it, but you'll see when you take this test. But as you're doing that prep again, you're doing 100, 200, 100, 200. And you're basically setting up that last 200 practice exam just like the real deal. What I would honestly do in that last one is I would pick so let's say you're taking the test on a Thursday at 10 a.m. When you're taking that final 200 point practice exam, you're doing it the previous, probably 2 weeks prior to the real thing on that Thursday at 10 a.m. You really want to replicate what the situation is going to be like. During the exam week, do nothing. Do absolutely nothing. I probably wouldn't see too many clients if you're being an intern and an associate right now. Really limit that. And you really want to just kind of take the week off. You definitely want to, that spa day I was talking about, this is the week to do that. Pick a nice leisure activity with your family, or, go take that hike, maybe, go do something. But you definitely don't want to do anything. Now, here's the last tip that I'll give you. So after you've taken that last week off, and there's a reason you take that week off, because you spent, at this point, 3 months prepping. You have all the material, so don't worry about it. It's in your head. So the one thing that I would tell you to do that helped me out tremendously in passing this exam is, after taking that week off, what I did is I got to the exam site early. And I'm talking probably 2 hours early. And what I did in that first hour is I just kind of relaxed, right? Maybe take 15, 20 minutes, check those emails, whatever your messages. You definitely want to turn your phone on do not disturb. And then what you want to do is, hopefully you can take your computer with you or whatever, maybe print out some questions. And you want to do just about 50 questions. It doesn't really matter if you get them right or wrong. You're not even going to score the test. When the reason you're doing those 50 questions is you're just basically, it's like a warm-up, right? Like any event, you're going to stretch before you go running or play football or baseball or whatever it is that you do. You want to do the same thing here. So take that 50-point practice exam, or 50-question practice exam, and just get those reps in and get your brain going. At this point, maybe you're 30 minutes early to the test site because you've been sitting there for a minute. Get out, stretch your legs, walk around, take some deep breaths, maybe start that meditation process, say that one last prayer, and then go on in. I wish you all the best of luck. I really appreciate you hanging out with me this long. I know this is kind of a long presentation. I really wanted to kind of make it faster. Again, these are just my perspectives and my thoughts and feelings about the exam, and I really hope you enjoyed the material. Please like, subscribe, do all those things. Leave some comments so, maybe you can let me know what I could do better in the future, or any area you might disagree with me on. I'd love to have that conversation. But I wish you all the best out there. It is awesome being a marriage family therapist. It is a long, daunting road at some point, whether you're doing hours for your association or internship, and as well as studying for the exam and working and dealing with your families and your personal life as well. So it is a hard thing to do. I'm so happy that I got through it. I wish you all the best of luck. And again, thank you so much. And I hope you all be good.